Well, hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Module 4. So, this is on sensory analysis or evaluation, whichever term you want to use. A few notes before we start. There's a recorded lecture. So Margaret Vandergavel she was with Griffith Laboratories. I think she might still be out. I don't really know. Anyway, she did a lecture for the class. In the old days, I used to invite professionals in to talk, but I stopped doing that because they'd like to tell you everything they know, and they went on for hours and hours and hours, and 1 hour is enough. But I did record them, and you can watch her presentation if you want. You might be something you might want to just play it like a podcast or something and just listen to her take. She really knew what she was talking about. So that's kind of so I just put that in there. It's just kind of extra credit if you're interested.
It was great.
Oh, really, Greg? You really liked it?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah, good, good, good. Yeah, well, she really knows what she's talking about. So she adds a lot more than probably that you need to know. But I'm glad somebody listened to it. So that's really cool. Yeah, I liked it. I haven't listened to it I haven't watched it for a long time. So just a reminder that next week, there is no class. Remember, we took a poll last week, and I'm going to my grandson's graduation, and we just decided to extend the class an extra week. So just know that it would be an opportunity for you either to catch up, though a lot of people are doing really well, but also to maybe just work ahead or maybe go back and review what we've already covered. When we come back, we're going to talk about government regulations, labeling, and allergens. We will not be talking about the current politics around those things. We are just going to stick to what's in the book, right? Obviously, things are in great turmoil, but we won't worry about that. Um, some comments from the discussion. I think these are from last year, but I'm sure they are the same. Some of the vocabulary is very confusing. So this is my goal today, is to put some context around the vocabulary and see if you can't make it a little easier, and to digest it all down to just the simplest parts, right? Um, you can access the Quizlets without going through my class. You can just go to Quizlet.com and you can do that. And then you can invite, also there's an invite link. I tried to invite you all, but it didn't want to do it. So anyway, just go there and I might have to accept you into the class. But then there's a whole list of all the Quizlets from the class. Anybody else have any comments before we start? Okay. So John and I were talking before class, and it occurred to me that maybe he suggested, and I agree, that let's just look a little bit about the learning objectives. The learning objectives are the only direction from the RCA as what's going to be on the exam. So the most important information that you want to learn is what's in the learning objectives. It's why I've kind of discouraged people to do a lot of Googling or, going out because there's so much information. We just had 2 weeks on nutrition. I used to teach a 16-week class on introductory nutrition, right? So, or sensory. If you went to a master's program, you could take a whole semester on sensory, a whole semester on government regulations. So I kind of discourage you from going out and Googling too much. You might get kind of overwhelmed by all of it. So if you can stick with the content that's in the books, I think especially the culinology book for this class, I think that that would be most helpful. The other thing that I would like to encourage you to do is after you've answered my questions, which hopefully directly respond to the learning objective, that you go back and answer the learning objectives. So some of the most successful students have written a paragraph under each learning objective. So the first one, to explain the types of sensory tests and instances when they should be used. So write a little paragraph or, a few bullet points or whatever underneath that so that you just can condense it down to the most important parts. I think I've told several of you, always include the learning objectives when you answer the question, because again, the learning objective is the core of the content. Does that make sense to everybody? I've probably said it, but it's like my dance teacher. You have to say it a dozen times before before I can hear it. So I really encourage you to go and to do that. So you answer all those questions, and then you see if you can kind of put it in your own words, right? So, all right. So that's my suggestion. Also, in this module, almost only, I have written a description at the top of each one of the assignments, and I would suggest that you include that with your lesson as well, because that's my attempt at answering it, right? So that description. So, okay. I hope that's helpful, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to look at the types of sensory tests, the difference between sensory analysis and sensory evaluation, communicate the difference between the common sensory methods, and describe how each can be used to guide product development. So number 3 and number 2, kind of pretty much the same thing. So, but a little bit different, looking at how to guide product development. So guide product development to me is the same thing is when they should be used, right? So we do that. Then it's asking for the appropriate size of panels, how big this panel should be, and explain the factors that influence sensory verdicts, which I think that's one of in the assignment. Here's the reading. So I'll start with the easy one, right? Analysis versus evaluation. I think this is kind of like cutting hairs. I think people use these two interchangeably, sensory analysis, sensory evaluation. I think that in practice, if I'm not wrong, they're used interchangeably. But the main difference um, is that to analyze is to break the concept down into its parts. So that's to analyze. And then for better interpretation, and then to evaluate requires determination of significance. So I guess it's a two-step process. I guess you analyze first and then evaluate, right? So you gather your data and then you evaluate that data and relate it to what you're trying to do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good. So that's how I read it. I don't know. So the definition of sensory evaluation is that it's a scientific discipline. So it uses math to come up with conclusions. And what we're trying to do is evoke or get people to tell us what they think and to measure that and to analyze it and interpret the characteristics of the foods or the materials. So what we're trying to do is to get people to tell us what they feel about the food, and then to usually get some statistical analysis about and interpret that as we go ahead with our product development. So that's the definition. So sensory evaluation, there's two different kinds of evaluation that we use. There's sensory evaluation, and just like it says, sensory evaluation uses our senses, sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing to evaluate the product, whatever it is. So it's using our senses. All the other kinds of things like pH and density and water activity and all those things where you get a concrete number is considered objective evaluation. right? So those are objective evaluation, but sensory evaluation is trying to figure out how can we make sense out of the senses. And as you know, and I know, somebody sits around and, they said, it's too salty. It's not salty enough. It's too spicy. It's not spicy enough. And, or today it was really good. Tomorrow, exactly the same thing. I don't like it. Right. So it's using our senses, which change a little bit and change over time, but using that. So how do we get some concrete numbers that we can move forward with when sensory is so difficult to measure, right? Because there's no machine that's going to measure this. So what we do is we have three classes of tests. There's three different classes of tests. There's the affective attributes of a product, right? How does that affect you, your affect? I don't like, right? Too spicy, not spicy enough, right? No cheese, extra cheese, whatever we're looking at, right? So this is the affective. How do you feel about it? This is especially used for consumers. So I want to make a burger or a salad, and I want to know, well, what do the consumers want on that salad, right? What's most important? And I want to keep it within a price range. So I don't want to dump a whole bunch of cheese or expensive ingredients on it if I don't have to. So we're asking people, how does this affect you? What would you like? So there are some tests, consumer testing that we can use. So, and this is evaluating a subjective hedonic responses. Subjective, I just explained what objective was. So subjective is how I feel. That's subjective, right? And hedonic is the senses, the smell and taste, right? So we're trying to ask, and this is usually done at the beginning of a project before you come up with the goal, the standard. It's a beginning of a project. So you go out into the big wide world and you ask people, what do you like, right? And depending on how big your company is and how much money you have, you could go to different parts of the country, if you were McDonald's or something, right? Or, so it could be really big or it could be really little. But you want lots and lots of people, lots and lots of people. You don't want to go to your five best friends and ask, what would you like on the salad, right? You want lots of people, a big panel. The bigger your panel is, the better your data is going to be, right? So if we could divide these into small, medium, and large panels, big panels for affective testing. Logical, right? Good. Okay. So the applications would be marketing and market research, those kinds of things, right? So that's affective. Affective is a word that we don't use very often, but it means how do you feel about it? That's what affective means. I'm sure that's not the definition, but that's what we're asking. How do you feel about this? So we're asking people that. So it's generally done in the very early stages in product development, and it's done with consumers. You don't expect them to be trained or anything. They don't need any of that. We're just asking, what do you like? Then the second grouping is what we call difference or discrimination testing. Can you tell the difference? Right? If I change one ingredient, if I buy my olive oil from a different country or a different supplier, or whatever, the capers are no longer available from XYZ, can I use different capers? So this is in-house, right? So now you can use the people that are in-house. You can use the people on the floor. You could use the quality assurance. You could use any sucker you could get to come do it, right? then that's who you're going to use, right? So this requires only a medium-sized panel, maybe 24 to 60 people, not that big, right? And so who would use this? Quality assurance, quality control, and product development. So quality assurance might use this at, here's the reference sample and here's the new sample. Has there been any drift over the last year? Right? Does it still taste like it used to taste when we originally created it? So quality assurance might use it that way. Product development might use it a different way. Is it spicy enough? Or can you tell the difference if I add a little more spice or a little less spice? Can you tell the difference, right? Product development might use it for that. But anyway, it's asking if there's a difference in taste. And so whenever we think about sensory evaluation, we're always thinking about the triangle test, right? The duo trio. And these are difference tests. Can you tell the difference? Medium-sized panel. I'm going to go through this all again, but I wanted to lay them out right in front so you could see there's three different categories. And of the three different categories, they have three different purposes. And the homework assignments were three different categories, right? Three different assignments. And so my goal is to get you to categorize these things and not have be a big mushy mess, right? But rather to categorize them according to the three different ones. Okay, so that's the medium-sized panel. And then the last one is the descriptive testing. So I always say, think about the people who taste wine or the people who taste olive oil, right? Those people, they're highly trained. They spend a lot of time. They spend a lot of time talking about, well, I taste this. Well, how would you describe it? Would you call it tart? Or sour or whatever. Our vocabulary is a little short when it comes to this kind of stuff. So that everybody sits around the room, and when I say sour, you think sour the same way I think sour. That word means the same thing to us. So this is descriptive testing. It is really probably the most expensive and the most technical and the most difficult to do. Requires a trained panel in-house and generally less than 10 people. And if you could keep those 10 people in-house and have them not leave to go to another company, that would be really, really super. Because for each product, you have to go through this training for each individual product or groupings of products. Okay, so those are the three categories. There's affective, what do you like? Right? There's difference. Can you tell the difference? And there's descriptive. Can you describe it? Right? Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm watching. Yes. Okay, so let's do a little bit more detail into each one, but just keep those three categories. And like I say, if you were going to if we had talked a little bit before class about flashcards, if you had made flashcards, three different flashcards, right? One for each one of these, right? So with a definition that you understand, and then the size of the panel and the application. So let's start first about affective testing or consumer testing. So again, what did I say? This is what do you like? There's no right or wrong answer. It's what do you like? That's all we're asking. Are you a person that puts mustard on your burgers, or you hate mustard, or you like Thousand Island dressing, or what do you like? Requires a lot of people because we want to please the most number of people, so it requires a lot of people. This testing can be divided into two different groups. Can be qualitative. So what do you suppose qualitative means? We're looking at qualities, right, of something. Qualitative. And there's a whole bunch of different kinds of tests that you can use that are qualitative. They're just asking, what do you like? And here are some of the description, individual people. We could use focus groups. Focus groups are a really good example of this. Have a bunch of people sit around the table and what do you like on your hamburger? What do you like, right? What do you want? Anything in the whole wide world. Nothing's off the table, right? Like brainstorming. Nothing's off the table. So that's quality. We're looking for qualities. Could be storytelling, one-on-one interviews, community narratives, whatever you want to use. Fuzzy front end is a type of qualitative analysis. So the consumer value. So fuzzy front end is like I say, I'm going to serve you a hamburger, and then you let everybody run with it. So it's that kind of a thing. So you don't have an agenda. So fuzzy front end, which is described in the culinology book, I think a lot, but it is a type of qualitative analysis. What qualities are we looking for? So this is all open end, so you need lots and lots of people. You can also do some quantitative consumer research, quantitative, relating to the quantity of something rather than the quality. And so it could be a preference test. Which one do you like better? So this is an example of a preference test. You have two different items and you just circle the one you like. Which one do you like better, right? That's a preference test. I like A over B, B over A. Which one do I prefer? Preference test. And then you get numbers, which is really, really nice, right? So you get numbers. So well, that's cool. All right, now I know that 75% of these people want this and 25% like this. So you get some numbers. So that's kind of nice. And then there's another kind of test. It's called a ranking test. So in a ranking test, you rank, I like this one, then I like that one, then I like that one, then I like that one, right? Which one do you like first, second? You rank them. So there's a ranking test. And then there are some acceptance tests, which is a liking test. I like, where we use the hedonic scale. I used to use this one a lot in class with my students. How do you like it? A lot? Not so much. Really awful, right? And then finally, there's a purchase intent. Would you buy it? Right? So a purchase intent. Okay, so these are the consumer tests. So they fall into two categories. Qualitative, which is like fuzzy front end, like, whoa, what do you want? Tell me the world. I can give you anything. I'm magical, right? Right? There are no limits to what you might have. And then there are some more specific tests. Let's say you have a couple of different samples and you want to see which one do you like better. These require, especially the qualitative ones require a lot of people, but also the preference test. You can see that 1 to 500. So I think of these things as being like when I was in Chicago and I'm walking down the street and this poor little girl is trying to drag me into the booth, right? So that kind of stuff to do a little test. Have any of you ever participated in any of these preference tests or consumer tests? So these are kind of expensive. because it requires a lot of people, and definitely. So I'm going to launch a poll to see if you can pick out the essence of all those words I just said, right? Did everybody get the poll? Okay.
You have a question in chat, Jill.
Oh, I do, I do, I do. Oh, thank you, thank you. You know me, I never monitor chat, so I'm not where to go. I just ask it. What was the question?
Mm. Sorry. I was asking, why would you choose to use a 5 point versus a 9 point on a hedonic scale?
Oh, that's a really good question. So, I think that you would use that. You want I like and even if I could expand that even further, do you want an even or an odd number? Do you want people to get off the hook and say, "Oh, neither like nor dislike," or would you like a forced choice? Right? Would you like a forced choice? In other words, you have to choose it. So if you have an even number, you have a forced choice. And personally, I like a smaller number rather than a larger number. I'm not sure that I can tell you the difference between like extremely and like very much, right?
Mhm. I
So
only use the 5 point, so
yeah, I think 5 points is enough. But but if you want to force people to make a choice, then you use an even number, like 6 or something, because then there's no neither like nor dislike in the middle. It's all up to you, is all up. And and the way you evaluate these things is you add them all together, right? So, all right. Did everybody get a chance? I think so. Looks like it. Okay. Okay, so who are your panelists likely to be? Consumers. You want to be outside. You don't want the quality assurance people because we all have bias inside, right? We know what we like, we know what we've always manufactured. So you want people from outside. So you want consumers for this one. That's who your panelists are going to be. People from the outside, at least from a different company, right? A different company, right? How many panelists? More than 100. You want a lot, a big, big panel, right? And when you do this test, um, when you're starting, obviously you have some concept of what you want, am I going to do a salad or a burger? But you don't want to be too invested in it, right? Because here you really want to look at that. Does that make sense? Okay. So yeah, so this is an early ideation state. Okay, so that's the consumer testing.
What was the third answer?
The third answer
There
was,
were there were three questions,
did I answer all three of
and
them?
the screen you just saved only showed two of the questions and two of the answers.
Oh, well, hmm, let's see.
You should have been able to scroll down to the third one.
I see three.
I scrolled down to the third one.
Yeah, you can scroll all the way down. The third one is, when would you use these tests? And early ideation stage. Can you see all three? I see 1, 2, and 3. Do you
We
see all?
can't see any of them now.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, now you can.
Oh,
Oh, I have to push the little blue button, the ones that says share.
ah,
Yeah. So I see 1 up here at the top and 2. One is who are your panelists? 2 is how many, and 3 is when would you do the test?
I apologize, Joe. When you shared this answer key, I didn't scroll down. I thought you were in control of it.
Not
My
this,
bad.
not this time. Right. Oh, it's okay. That's all right. Okay. Let's see. All right. So that's the important information, right? Not all these different kinds of tests, that gets all confusing. But the important information is when would you use it? How many panelists would there be? And what do you want? Right? What is the question you're asking? And so you're asking in this question, what do people like? That's the question, right? So that's consumer testing. We all want to jump in and do the gold standard, right? Right off the bat and play in the lab and have a really good time. But before we do that, it's really a good idea if we reach out into the world and see what the world likes, because we kind of are kind of, inbred, let's say. Okay, so then the second class of testing is a difference test. Can you tell the difference, or can you discriminate between 2 products? This is a difference test. This test is done in-house by anybody you can capture, right? Anybody in the facility that you can get. Uses a minimum size panel. It says multiples of 6 people, so 24 to 60 people. You don't need a whole lot, especially if you have a small facility and you're not manufacturing a lot. But so this is a difference. Can you tell the difference? So maybe you're changing something, or maybe you're lowering the sodium or lowering the sugar, or you're got a new supplier, or you want to see if it still tastes like it did last year or whatever. So you're asking, can you tell the difference? And that's why a triangle test is really good, right? So in a triangle test, you're asking which sample is different. So I have 3 samples, 2 of them are the same and 1 is different. So which sample is different? Or I can have a duo trio test, which is still 3 samples, but now you have a reference sample and you go, which one of these matches my reference? So the triangle test is probably the easiest one, but which one of these matches my reference? So let's say, so I have 2 that are the same and 1 that's different, but I'm asking which of these 2 matches my reference, and that's a duo trio test. You'll notice a couple of things about my little graphic. One is these numbers. It's very important that all your samples are served exactly the same in the exactly same cup, kind of cup, with the exactly the same amount of product and exactly the same temperature, and that they're randomly numbered. Right? So you can use a random number table that you can get the sensory people from. And so that you can't tell which one. They're randomly numbered and presented in a random order. So you don't have to worry about order, right? Differences in order. Because people may tend to like the first one better than the last one. We kind of fatigue over time, right? So all of those good sensory things. You ask your panelists to come. They hadn't had any coffee or cigarette or anything for a while. You could give them a little glass of water or a cracker to have between samples if you want. So this is a very simple question you're asking. What is different? Which one's different? You're looking for difference. So you could ask which one's sweetest. Oh, you could ask for an attribute difference or a grading test. Which one is sweetest, most bitter? And in this case, you would use a paired comparison. So you have two samples and you ask which is sweeter. And then you see, then you look and see, and it's strictly mathematical, right? More people said A is sweeter than B. So which one is sweeter? And you could do a ranking test. So you could have them rank according to sweetness. You could do a ranking test. Or you could have it scored. So these are all in-house. They're small, medium-sized panels. And what we're looking at is a difference. So for this one, the scoring test, let's say you had people score them and there was, people kept missing up 3 and 4. Then you would say, well, there's not much difference and not enough difference here to matter, right? Because they keep missing them up. Questions? These are difference tests. Difference tests are done in-house, usually by quality assurance or somebody like that. Small groups, and you're at which sample is different. Questions? Let's see. Okay, here's another quiz for you. There are 4 questions. The first one is, who are your panelists likely to be?
This is the same test.
Oh, no,
Oh, there's a 4th one. Never mind. Sorry.
it's different, I think. Same questions, different test. Oh, there we go. I'm going, I don't see anybody answering anything. Okay. I think 7 people answered the last one. Somebody might have gone to the bathroom or didn't get it or something. I see 6 people. Anybody still working on it? There we go. There's 7. Anybody else still working? All right. Oh, there's all 8 of us. Yes. Good job, class. Good job. Okay, so who are your panelists likely to be? In-house manufacturing would be the answer that I thought. You could use quality assurance people, especially as you're setting up the test. You might want to use your quality assurance people. They're probably the people that are going to be giving the test rather than taking the test. But it is a good thing for the quality assurance people. You might start it off with them. They probably have, a better palate, right, than the in-house manufacturing people. So you could do that. How many panelists? So less than 100. This middle one right here, probably even less than that, less than 60, right? Pretty small group. Maybe, what did they say? Groups of 6? Yeah, groups of 6. Whatever, 6, 12, 18, 24, like that. Small, medium size. So the consumer is big size. This is medium size. And then When would you use this test? You could use it in the early ideation stage of development, but generally it's used after you've settled on a product and you have a standard. You could use it in the beginning, but generally, the early ideation is for the consumer testing. What do you like? And then this is a usually an in-house sort of a product standard where you have a product standard. And then question number 4, what question are you asking? Can you tell the difference between this product and a reference product? Good job. Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. Okay. Now get rid of that over there. There we go. So those are the difference tests in-house. And the last grouping of tests are called descriptive tests. And a descriptive test is the most sophisticated, and we are asking to describe the product, converting what we taste into some kind of a pattern. And you can see that here's one way to present the data. So you would put the different tasters, each taster would be a different color, and they would rate tart. After everybody's been trained, what does tart mean? What is gummy? What is lemony? What is sweet? And you've all agreed, and these are the terms you're going to use. Then you look at the product and each one rates it based on how gummy do you think it is. And then you can create this pattern like that. So it tends to be expensive to train people. It takes a long time, a lot of sitting around the table talking, right? It's pretty sophisticated. It's a small number of panelists. So we would be defining. So think of this as like wine tasters or olive oil tasters, right? Those kind of people that are really smart. Okay, so at least this one's easy, right? Not too complicated. Okay, now you get another shot at same questions. And there are 4 questions. So I'm trying to be creative in my teaching methods. Student interaction. Keeping you awake. I see 6 of you have answered. 7. Uh-oh, there goes my dog. Always during the middle of class. It's usually the Amazon guy. He comes about this time every day. Well, every day I order stuff. I don't order stuff every day.
Mine was just sitting at the back door, barking for me to let her in.
Oh, okay, I see 7 of 8. Somebody's still answering. There we go. 8 of 8. Okay. End poll. Share results. Okay. So who are the panelists likely to be? It's usually in-house, could be manufacturing. It could probably be your quality assurance people, right? Anybody who's willing to be trained. It could be somebody from management, or anybody, but probably the quality assurance people are the ones that are most likely to be the panelist. How many panelists? We got that less than 10. There are less than 10 because it's expensive, right? And they all have to sit around the table and you spend hours talking to each other, and you have to be able to get everybody together on a regular basis, right? So it's expensive. So you don't want to have too many people. You want to have enough people so if somebody decides to go for a better job that you're not stuck, but not less than 10. When would you use this? Down here at the bottom, when comparing your product to another in-house or outside. So when you're comparing what your product is. You could do it just before marketing if you wanted to. And after you've settled on a product, you could use it at any time. You probably would not use it at the early ideation stage. But you could use it for any of those times. And then the question that you're asking is, how would you describe the attributes of this product? In this particular case, we don't care if you like it or don't like it. We're interested in the attributes. We're interested in your describing the product, the attributes. Sweet, sour, bitter, salty, gummy, mushy, those kinds of things. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so those are the 3 classes. Here's a chocolate description. So all of these, except for the hedonic ones, the consumer ones that are asking what you like, really are based on statistics. And the common statistics are that we use statistical analysis, usually a t-test. So if you have, let's use 20. If you have 20 down here, if you have 20 testers and 11 of them could identify that a difference, that would be 5% confidence that there's a difference, right? But the more people, the smaller, the more people that identify the difference, the more likely there's a difference, right? So it goes from 5 to 1 to 0.1%. So this is all based in statistics, what I forgot years ago, right? But I put this down here, not that I expect you guys to be able to do this, but you just know that the answers, sometimes you get simple answers like percentages, but sometimes, especially with the triangle test and the duo trios test and stuff like that, if you can use some of these statistical analysis tables, and you can find the books on how to do that. There's the shoot. Anyway, they publish books with this stuff in them. So I'm just putting this here to know that it's all that the answers are all based on statistics. And I would say that one of the problems that I've seen when I see these things is people ask too many questions, right? I don't know about you guys, but after 5 or 6 questions, I don't really give a rip, right? I would put anything down, right? So I care less and less the longer the survey goes on. So you want to be careful about that. You want to advise people not to talk to their friends about what they tasted, so they don't come in with a preconceived idea. You want to ask your panelist, to be as truthful as possible. This is just a chart with the same information in a different way. Same information. Does anybody have any questions for me about this?
No, I think it makes a lot more sense going through the notes and just kind of getting a recap of all, because it was kind of dry reading it in the book. So this was helpful.
I shouldn't say this, but I don't think it's a very well-written chapter. I think it's confusing, the chapter, right?
Yeah.
So if you only learned what's on this table, maybe with a few examples of tests, that's what you need to know. And if you can understand and relate to the vocabulary that they use, right? I mean, none of us use affective, right? What's that, right? So if we can somewhere, if you can identify with you go, oh, discrimination, difference test, right? Oh, can you tell the difference? A descriptive test. So everything else is affective, right? Which would be one way to do it, right? So, anybody else have any other comments or questions? There are a lot of different ways to describe sensory evaluation. This is the way that makes most sense to me. There are other people that will describe it differently and will group the things differently. But to me, this is the way, the simplest, the way I understand it. I'm not an expert. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments? Think I have everybody present. I'll stop the sharing. Oh, oh, that's a spider graph. Thank you, Lynn. Right. We use the flavor wheel for training. Probably be a really good idea. And then Greg, you added a document, interactive flavor. What's that about, Greg?
Our quality department, from a Scoffier. Our quality department uses it to train new people we're using for
Oh,
descriptive testing.
oh, cool. Cool. So there's lots of really cool. Oh, look at that. That thing is really cool. Can you guys see that? No.
Mhm.
Oh, you can? Oh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
It turned sideways and went blurry.
no, not that.
Oh, is that his file?
Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah, that's his file. Wait a minute. Let me do it. Let me do it the way I'm supposed to do it. Maybe.
Yeah.
There it is.
Mhm.
There. Now you can see it. Right? So that's cool. That's very cool. Yeah, there's a lot of people who really know what they're doing. So, but look at all this vocabulary, right? And to each one of each one of those words means something different.
Mhm.
So, and you don't want meat because I can't taste anything because I'm old. So, but there are super tasters and non-tasters. So super tasters are picky eaters and non-tasters eat everything. I'm in the non-taster category. That's a cool document. So you guys be sure to download it, right? I will add it, right? I will add it I will make an announcement and put it in there. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I'm sure it's okay, right? It's okay with the company.
No, it's okay. It's from Escoffier. You can find it online.
Okay.
It's a general document, but this is what we used when we built our program that one of my coworkers had used from culinary school.
Oh,
He
okay.
brought this and you can
Right.
find it anywhere.
Oh, good. All right. Yeah, you don't, I don't ever share anything that's secret. I keep terrible secrets.
Yeah. No,
That's why my husband used
it's
to
open source.
work. Oh, good. I use
Hey, Jill,
yeah.
you want to know a secret?
What? Only if you'd like the whole world to know it, right? One is I have a terrible poker face, and the other is I'm likely to tell everybody everything. So my husband used to work in defense, and I said, "Don't you ever tell me anything secret, because it won't be secret for long after you tell me." So after he died, and they were talking about what he did, I went, "No way! He do cool stuff." So anyway, all right. Enough about me. Okay, guys. So no class next week, but I want you to keep working, right? Keep working, and we will do module 5 when I get back. Most of you are doing a really good job. You can keep working ahead, right? And I'll be around so you can ask me any questions if you have any questions you need answered or any problems. All right. So enjoy next week and take care, right?
Thanks.
Have
Good
a good
night.
night, everybody.